Hi, I hope you're all doing well. I'm here to talk about my favorite day of Holy Week, and that day is Good Friday. Good Friday to me is a day that has such profound meaning, and really, you can't have Easter without Good Friday. Good Friday is a day of mourning, provides the basis, and uh, we Catholics, in celebrating Good Friday and taking it as seriously as it warrants, only makes Easter that more powerful and that more joyous. And I love how we come together and honor and mourn together what Christ did for us on that day. I always think back to my childhood, like this is a lot different than any other day on our calendar. It's a day when a lot of relatives would start coming into town, maybe, and to join us for our Easter services on Sunday, and we'd all go together Good Friday and participate in Stations of the Cross. And I always thought, this is so amazing how seriously people are taking it. And while the rest of the world maybe celebrates the lighter side of things and the superficial side of things, with lots of candy and so forth, and with the worthwhile celebration of Easter, I think what really connects it all for us Catholics is Good Friday and coming together on that day during Holy Week.
Greetings, Faith Formation families. God bless you, and hoping that you're all doing very well during this unique time in our lives. Reflecting on the days of Holy Week, I'd have to say that my favorite day is Good Friday. When I was a child, I always thought it was kind of odd that they called it Good Friday when Christ died on that day. And as I got older, I recognized that it was a good day for us because Christ established a path for us to receive God's grace, the greatest gift of all time. Also, the Stations of the Cross helped me understand the price that Christ paid on Good Friday for us. From his trial to his tomb, Jesus is subjected to humiliation, rejection, and torture. Jesus' journey reminds me to be brave, even when I feel I'm all alone or the world is against me. Saint Veronica, pushing through the crowds to wipe Jesus' face, reminds me to stand up for what's right, even at great personal risk to myself. And Jesus' death reminds me that the price has been paid for me. God's grace is mine. What a wonderful gift for me, an undeserving sinner. I hope that Holy Week is inspiring for all of you and that you're able to be close to those you love during this most important time in our faith. God bless.
Okay, so as you can see, Good Friday is a popular one. I had two catechists, core team members rather, two of them said that this is their favorite day of Holy Week. And it's easy to understand why, right? And they both they hit on the main points. So I won't belabor this video, I won't make it too long. But this day is it is important, you know, because we are an Easter people, right? Like we do, like the whole point of us, the whole point of our faith life is knowing that Jesus rose and rose from the dead, right? So we're not wanting to keep him on the cross, right? And so that was something that when I was in college, people talked a lot about. I went to, was a Free Methodist college, but most of my friends and classmates were non-denominational. And so they talked a lot about how it was weird to them that Catholics, when you look at crucifixes, Jesus is on the cross, right? So we have Jesus on the cross. And so for them, I heard the argument a lot like, well, why would we keep Jesus on the cross, right? Like, why do we keep Jesus on the cross if he is risen? And like, we obviously, of course we believe that Jesus is risen, right? There's no point to anything we believe if we don't acknowledge that he's risen. At the same time, though, for us, it's important that to remember that he was on the cross, right? That he suffered and he died. So there's a passage in Scripture, and I should have looked up the quote before I started talking, but I didn't. So there's a passage in Scripture somewhere, I think it's one of the epistles, where it says that the cross has the final word, right? And so we talked actually a little bit about this at confirmation a couple weeks ago. And what does that mean? Like, what does it mean that the cross has the final word, right? That, like, the victory over the cross, that's what it is, you know? And so that Jesus died is important, right? Because Jesus is God. And so that God died for us is important, that he physically died, right? And so it's important to remember that it wasn't easy, right? It wasn't just like, he said, okay, I'm going to save everyone, and then he just went to heaven. He died, right? He died. And so he suffered, he had a suffering death. And so that's why we, on Good Friday, we venerate the cross. Again, like I said in my last video, I think that's part of why Good Friday was really cool for me as a teenager and as a child too, I guess. But I liked to venerate the cross. I thought that was really, interesting, and it was, I think it was really moving to see some of the, especially older parishioners, I guess, when I was growing up. It was some of the older people that when they came up, they just were so, you could tell they were so moved by that experience. And and at that point in their lives, how many times had they venerated the cross, probably how old are they? If they're, 70, they must have done it 65 or 70 times, like some of these people had venerated the cross so many times, but you could tell every time it was just such an experience, right? So I think that is so moving that people can still remember that, like, that was such a great sacrifice, and that's just super important for us to remember that there was a sacrifice, right? And that it wasn't just something that we were just saved from ourselves by a whim, right? It was that a conscious choice, a conscious sacrifice on our behalf, right? And so I guess that's the cool thing about Good Friday for me. They some of the other videos talked about similar things, that, like, it's important to remember the cross and not just to like skip to Easter, right? So anyway, that's Good Friday. That's what we loved about that. So yes, so this week what we were going to do, I actually was going to pull out a cross to venerate the cross. So we have one that we use for living stations, but we're actually going to send home, I think Anne Marie is working on it, sending home a video about venerating the cross at home. And so I would just invite you to do the same thing at home on Good Friday, to take the opportunity to really reflect on that sacrifice. So anyway, yes, that's that. Thanks.